Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am Joey Harris, your host. Thank you for joining me this week. This is the podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. We've got our beverage of choice here and we're going to take a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network. I have got my unsweetened iced tea with lemon right here beside me, taking a break from the coffee this week. Folks, it just seems when it rains it pours, doesn't it? We had a hard week last week with Howard Finkel, and I talked about my mentor, Mr. B, and then this week got hit with a couple of other deaths. Joe Pedicino, famous for his Saturday Night Wrestling block in Atlanta, creator of the Global Wrestling Federation, former WCW personality, passed away. He had been having problems. He had had a stroke earlier, and his wife, Bonnie, brought him home and set him up there, and apparently he passed away on Easter Sunday, so a couple of weeks ago as I record this, and it just came out this past week, and she did what she thought was best. Maybe there were some outstanding circumstances going on, but he had been in ill health for a while, so it didn't come as complete shock, but then the next one did. Legendary Memphis manager, purveyor of all things Kentucky Fried Wrestling, had done his blog for many years on Memphis wrestling. Scott Bowden passed away unexpectedly this week, and I think it just hit everyone just out of the blue. I know that it was mentioned. Chris and Bix put out something quick because Scott had been on their network, on the Between the Sheets network, with the newest version of his Kentucky Fried Wrestling, the KFR podcast. And even though he had had some rough times there and it didn't end the best way, it was very classy of Brian Last to put out a memorial tribute to Scott Bowden, which I thought was done very well. So rest in peace to both of those guys. They will be sorely missed. I was on Twitter this past week, and someone asked that when all of this craziness is over, what's the one quote unquote normal thing that you miss doing that you're going to do? And I said, go in and out of stores or places without standing in line, because I did that everywhere I went this week. I try not to go many places, but sometimes you have to. The back of my truck is filled up with recycling, and so I had to go to the recycling place. Went yesterday, arrived 10 minutes before they opened, and I was the seventh person in line. So took about a third of the bags that I had in the back of my truck, all that I could grab, and just got in line. And I'm just going to go back, keep doing it until it's all done. And then went to Walmart again, stood in line, had to get some things from Walmart, and I'm not going to miss standing in line to go into stores and such. We are looking today at the Saturday Night's Main Event from November of 1988 from the WWF. Saturday Night's Main Event number 18 was shown on NBC on November the 26th, 1988. It was taped November the 16th, 1988 from the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of it, the Saturday Night's Main Event many times was its own universe within the WWF. At the time, they did not acknowledge what happened at pay-per-views, because just like this here, the Survivor Series had just taken place a couple of days before this, but this was taped before that, so they make no mention of it at all. They do mention that it is Thanksgiving weekend, and they had had that slot for a few years now, the Saturday night of Thanksgiving. The Ultimate Warrior says Thanksgiving might be a time of peace, but not when his belt is on the line. Andre the Giant and Bobby Heenan say it's time that the WWF Championship came back to Andre. Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth say that tonight, Randy will beat Andre like David beat Goliath. Ted DiBiase and Virgil say Hercules belongs to the $1 Million Man, and Virgil is going to collect on an overdue bill. Hulk Hogan says Brother Love set him up to fall to the Big Boss Man. Tonight, he lets the Pythons do the talking. And we roll into our opening credits. Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura welcome us and run down that night's card. Mean Gene Okerlund interviews Mr. Fuji with his new man, the Super Ninja. Fuji says that Super Ninja has been in training in secret and that secrecy is the key. Remember Pearl Harbor? Yikes. That was a cringeworthy moment. It will not be the only one in this show. They then head to the ring. Mean Gene then interviews the Ultimate Warrior. He says that war only holds victory for the Ultimate Warrior. WWF Intercontinental Championship match. The Ultimate Warrior versus Super Ninja with Mr. Fuji. Super Ninja tries to strike early, but the Warrior is having none of it. Super Ninja goes outside, and Warrior goes after him. Warrior gets Super Ninja up and presses him. He then hits the big splash for the win. Total squash win for the Ultimate Warrior. Flashback to the $1 Million Man trying to buy Hercules as his slave. Jesse Ventura interviews Ted DiBiase and Virgil. DiBiase says he owns Hercules lock, stock, and barrel. He says he isn't going to fight Hercules because he doesn't touch slaves. That's for Virgil. You should see the look on Virgil's face when he says this. It is priceless and worth the amount of the network alone for that month. Mean Gene interviews Hercules. He says he is a free man. His chain represents all his victories because each time he has a victory, he adds a link. Hercules versus Virgil with Ted DiBiase. Jesse has some risque commentary here about roots and chains. I told you folks that that was not going to be the only yikes moment of the night. As the bell rings, Ted DiBiase is helping Virgil, but Hercules overcomes them. In fact, let's take all the yikes moments of the night, and if you're drinking at home, take a shot. So you should be 2 shots up right now. He clears the ring. Hercules then takes over on Virgil. DiBiase distracts Hercules. Virgil still being punished. Hercules hits the power slam for the win. Hercules clears the ring with the chain. They flash back to the Jake Roberts Andre the Giant confrontation on the last Saturday night's main event. Mean Gene interviews Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant. Andre doesn't want snakes brought up. They say Andre is still the real world's champion. This is 3 years before Ric Flair came to the WWF. They head to the ring. Mean Gene interviews Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. Savage says to be a great champion, he's got to beat the Giant. He says if Hulk Hogan can beat Andre, he can. WWF World Heavyweight Championship match. Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth versus Andre the Giant with Bobby Heenan. Andre with an early advantage. Savage sticks and moves but gets caught. Andre's doing his usual cheating spot. The corner smash, the choking with the tights, etc. Savage trying to escape. Savage is such a great worker here. Andre is past his prime, but is also working his butt off here. Savage goes back to stick and move. Back and forth. Andre gets knocked down to his knees. Jake Roberts shows up. The referee tells him to get out of here. Commercial break, and when we come back, Andre has Heenan looking for Damien's bag. Roberts comes back and chases Heenan into the ring. The bell rings. Savage throws Heenan into Andre, who does his ropes tied up spot. Roberts comes in. Damien comes out of the bag. Andre runs and falls down the aisle. Roberts and Savage shake hands, and Jesse says this whole thing has been a conspiracy. Well, if there's one thing that Jesse Ventura can really talk about, it is conspiracy theories. Did you see that he has thrown his name into the ring as a possible presidential candidate for the Green Party? As if this year couldn't get any crazier. If he gets it and becomes the nominee, there will officially be 2 WWE Hall of Famers running for president. Only in America, folks. Mean Gene talks to Jim Duggan. He's got the United States flag with him. He's got a flag match with Boris Zukov coming up. Flag match. Jim Duggan versus Boris Zukov. Duggan with the early advantage. Knocked outside early. Zukov comes back with some elbows. Back and forth. Duggan hits a big clothesline for the pin, and Old Glory is raised. Flashback to Hulk Hogan being attacked by the Big Boss Man on the Brother Love show. Brother Love is in the ring. He calls out Slick. Hulk Hogan is with Mean Gene and is upset because he was supposed to be the guest. Once Slick gets in, they call Hogan to the ring. Brother Love and Slick keep cutting him off. Hogan finally takes the microphone. He talks about what he would do to Slick and the Big Boss Man. He does say boy to Slick at the end of one of his sentences. And I know it's 1988, but it sounds so bad now. It sounded so bad then. Take a shot, another yikes moment. He throws Slick out, and Brother Love tries to attack him from behind. Hogan slams Brother Love, then handcuffs him to the ropes. Then, of course, Hogan must pose. Jesse Ventura interviews the Rougeau Brothers and Jimmy Hart. They have officially moved to the USA, to Memphis, Tennessee. The Young Stallions Paul Roma and Jim Powers versus the fabulous Rougeau Brothers with Jimmy Hart. Jacques takes over, tags Raymond in. Powers tries to combat. Hart clips him with the megaphone. Jacques misses a crossbody. Raymond and Roma tagged in. Roma hits a drop kick. Jacques hits a move from the top rope, and Raymond gets the pin. Jesse interviews Andre the Giant with Bobby Heenan. Andre blames Jake Roberts for the loss. He says he's not afraid of snakes, but Roberts should come alone. Mean Gene interviews Jake Roberts. He says Andre is afraid, and he and Damien won't stop until they consume the Giant. Mean Gene interviews Hulk Hogan. He says he was the judge on the Brother Love show. The only criminal left is the Big Boss Man. They sign off from Sacramento. Folks, thank you so much for joining me this week. If you like the show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It helps people find the show. There are a number of ways that you can contact me. You can follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am at the Joey Harris. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey Harris saying so long from stately Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.